Yes.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Carol Day, and I'm Credo coordinator. Most of you, I believe, already know me. And I want to thank all of you who showed up for Credo here in the Bernstein room at 10:30, like back in the olden days. But we're also glad to have our participants on Zoom. Where's the camera? I look there, okay? Hello to all of you. We're glad to have our participants on Zoom and so you've been very diligent about finding us online, even though our times have changed over and over. So we thank you for continuing to do that. We're hoping we can continue with this time and these formats. But you never know these days, do you? We'll do the best we can. Today, I'm very happy to introduce our speaker, Sage Brook. She's been a member here at the UUCC for almost 30 years, back since 1993. Many of us know Sage as a midwife, and now her service to our congregation and out to the broader community is evolved into helping older people in many ways. And so she's going to tell us more about that and whatever else she wants to speak about her work with the broader community. Sage will speak for about 20 minutes, and during that time, Zoom viewers, you feel free to write down questions even after she quits speaking. That'll be the main way you'll be able to interact on Zoom. We won't have other direct interaction. And in here, we will of course take questions for around 10 minutes, including some Zoom questions. So I'll turn things over to you, Sage. Welcome.
I look around and I notice that I met all of you. There are no strangers here. That makes me a little less nervous. I have had so many ideas related to both my spiritual journey and my professional journey. They are definitely related and yet different. Last Sunday's sermon really helped to solidify how I was going to approach sharing my credo. So here goes. The many church experiences I have had have definitely influenced the way I've lived my life and how I continue to live my life. I was raised by a father who was a cultural Jew and a mother who was confirmed in the Dutch Reformed Church but had no connection to a church as an adult. Ironically, my father was the influential person who wanted his daughters, and I was the oldest, to attend some religious education so that we could decide for ourselves as we got older what we believed or didn't believe. The closest church in our Long Island City neighborhood was a Lutheran church. And so we were enrolled in Sunday school at this church, and it was my Jewish father who walked us to church every Sunday. Of course, everybody walks to everything in Long Island City. I was attending Sunday school when I first got a glimpse of a Jesus who cared for others. I wanted to be like my teacher and be kind and helpful to others. This continued with a change to a Presbyterian church. My choice because I had a friend who attended there and it sounded like a bit more fun than the Lutheran church. There I had Sunday school teachers who again not only taught me about what it was to be a Presbyterian, but again a sense of reaching out to help others. It was in this church experience I started singing in the choir, joining the church, and then becoming a youth leader in the teen group and even teaching church Sunday school. Again, neither parent participated in any of this. It was my choice, or perhaps my destiny. Presbyterians talked a lot about that. But along the way, I also went to a Pentecostal church with other neighborhood friends. I love the singing enthusiasm, but I question their emphasis on converting everybody. I even attended the first Billy Graham crusade in New York City with these friends, and I went forward to give my life to Christ. That was the beginning of conflicts with my parents. My father especially thought that the literature that kept coming to our house was not healthy for me. Lots of talk about sin and damnation and witnessing to others to become Christians. This began my rebelling toward religion, not your common teenage rebellion. I began a life of praying and reflection and even considered becoming a minister. Some of my activities related to the Pentecostal friends meant evening meetings and getting home late on school nights. I was so convinced that these were good things that I continued to do them without my parents' permission. Since I still was a good student and I was about 15 or 16 at this time, I didn't get into terrible trouble with these occasional excursions. But then, as I was preparing to go to college, I wanted to attend a college away from home. And again, I had a Pentecostal friend who attended a small Wesleyan Methodist college in Western New York. She encouraged me to go there. That was a hard sell for my parents, but I did get to go. And that was another life-changing event. A conservative Christian college gave me lots of opportunities to study the Bible, to go to prayer meetings and think about missionary services. I didn't have a burning desire to convert others, but I did want to help educate people and thought perhaps I'd work in a mission school in Africa. But I also thought about being a Vista volunteer at the time to teach in a poor area in the United States. Again, I saw Christianity as an encouragement to give my life to make the world a better place. I also continued to question some of the superficial rules related to this conservative school. It was called Houghton College. No dancing, no card playing, no movies unless given permission by your parents. And the huge importance of attending chapel every day, although you could knit in chapel, which made it a little bit easier. Attending church every Sunday, yet the emphasis was really on dating and finding a Christian husband or wife. It was during this time I began to write in my journal. I had always kept a journal from the time I was a young teen. And I was rereading it several months ago. And in it I said, I would never be a nurse. Famous last words. In my sophomore year, I was given an opportunity to work at a Christian children's home in Quebec, France, Canada. I was a French and elementary school major, so this was right up my alley, except it didn't pay anything. Strictly volunteer opportunity. My parents were strongly opposed to this. I wouldn't be coming home from the summer and earning money. So much so that they refused to pay for the rest of my education. So they thought I just wouldn't go to Quebec. Not true. That was a blessing in disguise. Defiant me said, I am going, and I will find a way to pay for the rest of my college education, which I did. Spending 2 months living and caring for small children who did not speak English was a life-changing summer for me. I not only learned an incredible amount of French, I can still tell the story of Little Red Riding Hood in French. But I began to question so much about fundamentalist Christianity. I didn't give up a belief in Jesus or God, but I knew that somehow this form of religion that didn't encourage children to play and explore and had more emphasis on prayer meetings, chores, long church services, and so many rules was wrong. I called it religious pathology. I still felt incredibly close to the Spirit of God within me, but could no longer buy into limiting God to such a rigid, joyless experience. I returned to college a different person, still with a strong desire to help others, but not to preach to this, not to limit my life. I grew up. I even returned to visiting my family and finally being a helpful daughter, which I wasn't. I realized how hard it was to keep house after doing that for 2 months in Quebec. And I had appreciation for all the hard work my mother did. And I had to work several jobs to pay my way through school. And I discovered I really liked to work. I worked in the kitchen, in a language lab, at a switchboard. The next journey came from marrying Dale. Yes, I did meet him right before he graduated from the same college. Dale's love for church music and for people was infectious. I was introduced to so many different churches and musical experiences while dating Dale and throughout our married life. The small Methodist church we attended in Mayfield, New York, yes, Dale became the choir director. We had a minister who told wonderful stories related to Bible stories. He made them come alive, the lessons related to them rather than the literal interpretations. I began to see the Bible in a different light, and that resonated with me. I also went out of my comfort zone and started visiting an elderly shut-in. It brought me joy to hear her stories and gave me a reason to bake cookies for her, something I still love doing for others. It was my first introduction to caring for an elderly person rather than small children and my new baby. In this small Methodist church, I found a community of caring people, and that has been an important thread throughout my life. Dale and I also started reading books with friends that explored Christianity in different ways, another important part of our lives for many years. Then we moved to Florida, and it meant joining another Methodist church, and of course, Dale became their music director. Again, we joined an intentional spiritual study group that became a significant part of our lives. We both became involved in social justice issues, and my involvement with Meals on Wheels and Dale's and Bread for the World were significant parts of our lives. Also, I was visiting shut-ins. So again, I was visiting older people. We both participated in silent retreats during this time, exploring scripture in a totally different personal way, dialoguing with the characters in the story, questioning why certain things were said. Spending time in silence also led to me exploring what it was I wanted to give my life to, and thus returning to school for a nursing degree in order to be a nurse midwife. What a challenge and change for my life. I truly felt led to do this. Silence, prayer, the incredible support from Dale, and a small inheritance from my mother-in-law made this possible. I had to let go of security, the unknown. The known I had to let go of, to have the freedom to discover another way of life. It was scary, but exhilarating too. Again, spending time in silence and journaling were powerful motivators to help me survive. Also, the support of my friends and family. Again, having a support group in the church was also wonderful. I discovered a relationship with a God within me that was essential to my survival, especially when I got diagnosed with melanoma, just as I was about to graduate. It gave me the opportunity to realize that I truly wanted to survive the surgery and to live to be a midwife, but if that wasn't to be, it was also okay. I had had a wonderful life up to that point. So many friends were supportive during my recovery time, and when I got to deliver my first baby during my delayed starting of my internship, I was overjoyed. Being present for birth is truly a miraculous gift, one I've witnessed more than 4,000 times in my life, for which I am so thankful. I am thankful to have found a profession I loved. I think of my many experiences as spiritual experiences, even the sad ones when a baby dies or a major birth defect is noted at the birth. I'm able to witness incredible joy and incredible sadness and be there for these families. I feel blessed. So what about now here in Charlotte? Again, when Dale and I moved to this area, it was both with sadness, leaving church friends from a small, socially conscious Episcopal church in Tampa, Florida. Again, Dale was their music director, unpaid, and excitement to leave behind some difficult times in our marriage and to begin anew. Our first Sunday in this area, we attended the Unitarian Church, a better fit for both our belief systems by this time in our lives. And of course, it became our church home and Dale's job for 12 years as the music director, a job he loved. I continued to work as a midwife in both Gaston County and then in Charlotte. In time, again, our circle of friends, our community involved the church. I continue to journal. That's my form of prayer. And this helped me through difficult decisions in my life. When I finally retired from the job I loved, I gave a lot of thought about what I wanted to do. I couldn't let go of the idea of a support group for new moms. And so in a few months, that came into fruition and brought me both joy and new acquaintances and exposure to moms and babies. But that wasn't enough for me. By a chance meeting with a physician, I was invited to pursue working for the Novant Float Pool. The hardest part of this meant using a new computer program. Getting credentialed was a nightmare, but I was so determined not to let it prevent me from moving forward for the opportunity to work again, but limiting my hours. With the help from my more computer savvy daughter, Dara, I did accomplish what seemed like a mammoth task. And I've worked for this float pool for over 3 years, providing outpatient care to women at OBGYN practices that needed help. But I'm going through the re-credentialing process again. It's still a nightmare, and I'm trying not to let it get the best of me. I may just have to let go of this endeavor and move on to my new life of service to the elderly. Yes, I've been with several people in the last year who either died in my presence, my husband in May, or just days before they died, a 99-year-old friend, and other friends I've made through Charlotte Village Network, a volunteer organization to help folks stay in their homes as long as possible, and then through our Congregational Care team. Being supportive of these folks has opened my life to another spiritual event. Attending births, and now Jess, is life-changing for not only the person going through these experiences, but those who are witnesses to those experiences. When Jay spoke of the inevitable fact that we are all born and we all die, yet the important thing is how we live in the in-between, I could identify strongly with this. The remembrance of these folks who have died brings me a belief that the spirit of the loved one lives on. That is what eternal life is about. If I live my life doing what I believe is important related to my values, a life of caring, kindness, giving, and sharing my gifts, then I have the potential to touch others in a way that perhaps they too will be more caring and kind. So helping men and women in the past years of their lives has brought me new life. I get to hear stories as I transport folks to medical appointments, hair and nail appointments, grocery shopping, social gatherings, and inviting people into my home to play games together. These have been spiritual experiences and life-changing for me. I'll end with a quote from Dr. Rachel Raymond in a book called My Grandfather's Blessing. Dr. Raymond's experience as an oncology physician working with many end-of-life patients writes this: despite the countless and diverse ways we live our lives, every life is a spiritual path, and all life has a spiritual agenda. We restore the holiness of the world through our loving kindness and compassion.
That was very impressive, and want to follow some of the things that you were saying there at the end. So looks like we have a question here.
I do. I'm sorry, I missed what religion your mom was, and also what does it mean to be a cultural Jew?
Well, my father was Jewish, but he didn't practice Judaism.
Oh.
His father had been a rabbi. He was dead long before I was in the picture. And my mother, Dutch Reformed, is a Protestant church. She was German, and that's kind of what they went to. But my maternal grandfather was an atheist.
Okay, somebody else?
Yes.
Of all the various churches that you went to and religions you're exposed to, did any of them have a particular effect on your current views toward service and life and death, a particular fact that was different from all the others?
Good question. I think it had an influence on my life because I thought that all religions, all of those religions were about helping other people. As far as that about eternal life, I gave up the idea that I was going to live in a heaven that's up here and I was going to see all my relatives, and that just evolved, but not from the church.
So you spent a lot of time studying the Bible in the early years.
I did.
What books influence you now, or any authors that you really inspire?
This is the one I did, just the current ones I ever read. I don't ever go and read something again.
No, okay.
But this one was given to me by a friend, My Grandfather's Blessings. And that was the doctor I mentioned at the end. And her grandfather was a rabbi. So there's something that resonates with me about Judaism, because their belief in life after death is probably closer to what I believe than any Christian religion would be. You know, that you live on in the lives that other people live and how you influence another life. And I did go to a course in Judaism once too.
Any thoughts on how older people can find meaning and purpose as they're losing physical and mental capacity, and really just everything they had and used to be is not there anymore?
So the question,
Is how you, I assume you encounter people like that.
I do.
And this, what helps them think it's still worth living? Especially if they're not figuring it's all about going to heaven.
you know, the two people that I with, my husband gave up eating and drinking because he felt there was nothing to go on about. He lost all of his ability to do all the things that he wanted to do. So I saw that part. I saw a friend do the same thing. So they were ready to let go because there was nothing that brought meaning to their life. So those are the people who really influenced me.
There is one question from someone on Zoom. You've been journaling for many years. Do you follow any specific method or style?
I used to journal before bed. As a teenager, you know, with all the angst that you have as a teenager, I used to write about them. And I was so surprised that I did that. And then in college, I used to get up early in the morning and write before. And then when I was in one study group as an adult, we talked about spending time in the morning in silence and then seeing what that brought to your life and going on silent retreats. It's like being in silence opened up a whole different realm of writing. And now I only write if I have a question about something. I don't write every single day.
In letting go, have you seen where people like hang on until the family is there or somebody tells them it's okay to go?
I haven't actually, although it seems to have happened that way. So maybe they did. Like the 99-year-old man was a friend of Dale and I both. His family was there the week before he died. And I was there the night, in the afternoon, he died that night. And I just saw that it looked like he didn't want to live any longer. So, limited experiences. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You inspire me in many ways, and things you said. So thank you to all of you, and hope you'll join us again on the fourth Sunday in May. Bye-bye.